Cool. All right, man. Who's got some wins to share? Anybody yeah, for some big wins this week?
I got a couple of little ones.
Okay, well, little ones can be big ones. It depends on how you sell it, Neil.
Again, I got some more G&Bs from clients, from
Okay.
people they knew, and I kind of mapped out some areas. I was asking some of my clients, and I think we got two live this week. And right before I hopped on the call, I got another one from another client.
That's cool. Are they sticking? Are they in good niches and everything and they're
Oh
sticking?
yeah, oh yeah, they're solid. I'm trying to just do the Patrick antenna thing.
Yeah,
So
that's what you want to
that's a
do.
little bit. I had a win loss.
Are they in good niche? There we go. Finally got
Um,
that.
I kind of had a win loss with a client. I'm doing it for someone else. I'm partners on their site. It's just carpet cleaning, and I'm not big on carpet cleaning, but I got a relationship with the guy. He really likes me, but our GMB went down and haven't been able to get him any leads. And past couple of months, he's been with a company called, they do just Facebook, and they've been killing it for him. And he's paying like $1,700 a month for carpet cleaning with, I've never heard of the company. I'll have to come back to that. I had it written down. I was trying to find them. They're out of California. They do nothing but Facebook. And they've been killing it. But he said, listen, I love you, man. I'm going to stick with you. But if you can get me the kind of stuff they're getting me, I'd rather pay you.
Yeah. Yeah. I did sales for somebody who does Facebook, and I found the lead quality was very low. So I don't know if I'm sure it's niche dependent, location dependent. I found that I was just fighting a lot with the contractors that I got on board because they were like, oh, well, this one's not qualified. They're out of my zip code, like whatever. They always had an excuse, and you're just nickel and diming and nitpicking every single thing. So I'm not really excited about Facebook ads. Again, I tried it and I did that for, I guess, 6 or 8 months maybe.
Well, this
And
is a company. It's a company that's just getting the leads to him.
yeah, well, I was a sales guy for a company that's exactly what they did. They did, lead arbitrage from
So
Facebook
the
to
leads are
contract.
great. He
Yeah.
says paying $1,700 a month, but he's getting over 10,000 a month in business. And
Hmm.
then he did say, though, I do prefer Google leads.
Yeah.
So he says, I want you to get back in action. He goes, I'd rather be with you than them. So
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. Get those GMBs and get back in action. Who else has a win? Anybody? Devin? Dave? Nobody.
Mine are more personal in terms of
I'll
wins.
let Devin go first.
Oh, sorry, Dave. I'm getting ready to move in a couple weeks, so it's like one of the big things that's it's becoming a big time vacuum. But finally got people to take the furniture. I'll be finding someplace to work for the next few weeks. That I'm still in Vegas, but just
Where are you
I'm
moving again?
for anyone so inclined to know, moving out to Stillwater, Oklahoma.
Stillwater. That's right. Yeah. All
It's
right.
okay. We won't hold it against you, Devin.
I hope not. If you could find me out there,
Yeah, right.
Hey, at least it's a great win to share. So thanks, Devin.
That's a place where people go to hide, right?
to better themselves. It's a place where people go to better themselves.
Oh, better themselves. Okay.
Meditation and healing and nature and it's okay, Devin. We won't hold it against you.
What do you got, Dave?
I'm actually jealous of you. So for me, I pretty much have and I'm a humble guy. So I'll be very vague about the win that I have.
Okay.
And
Cool.
say that it's multiple sites with everywhere pages, I guess is the best way to say it. And these aren't small sites. There's
Like location pages, like neighborhood pages out the wazoo. Is that what I'm picking up?
yeah, I smell what you're stepping in. Okay, so I'll be very specific. Please understand, this is not something where I like to brag. It's 15 different websites, each of them with give or take in between anywhere from 250 pages each
Wow.
to 600 pages each.
Wow.
And did you do like a mass page generator, or how did you do it?
That's what I do. I work with mega page websites, and I take on clients every day of the week. But this is probably one of the smaller wins that I had, so it was worth sharing.
And it works out for you building all those pages? Yeah, awesome. Great to hear it. All right. Well, we got a few wins there. I don't see anybody on Facebook. It's a little hard for me to manage everything. Patrick is not going to be on the call tonight. Okay, well, hold on. Patrick's not going to be on the call tonight. So I'm kind of, juggling everything myself. So it's hard for me to go back and forth between Zoom and Facebook and whatnot. But if anybody on Facebook wants to drop a win or anything, I can look over there and grab that. And what we want to do tonight is talk more about sales. That's sort of my, sweet spot. So if you have questions about sales, you have anything that you want to discuss about sales, how to prospect in the, with the heat maps or anything like that, pretty much open game. We'll just kind of keep it cash as usual and go that direction. And was somebody else wanted to share something?
I had kind of an interesting new prospecting way to get that I closed someone today. Is I was on I guess I closed today, but I was on a run last Thursday, and I had just lost a client for a mason site, and I saw a mason doing some work, and I jogged over to him and said, "Hey, could you use some more work?" and closed the deal this morning. So
wow, that's awesome.
A new way of getting out
prospecting.
A new way of practicing. I was exercising and got a win. So
yeah, that's awesome.
I think Shannon beats us both out there, Devin.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're building your stuff in your local area, then you can do that. If you're doing
that happened to be a local one. Yeah,
I had a similar win like that. My mom's boyfriend had some stuff being built, and I have a site close to where we live, so it wasn't producing, but it got a lead, and I texted to him, and he kind of let it fall by the wayside. And then another one came in, so I went over as he was doing the work for my mom's boyfriend and just kind of said, "Hey, this is what I do. This is what I got. Are you interested?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm interested." So he wants to do a rev share deal. And so I've sent him a couple of things and, trying to spend a little bit more time on that site to get it to rank better, since I have somebody in place who's at least willing to take them. So that's a win on my part. And
I think Shannon still beats you out there, Jeff.
How is that?
I see you as Patrick, but I think Shannon still wins there, Jeff.
I don't know how. That sounds pretty much the same.
I mean, jogging right up to somebody and closing it right then. That's strong.
I drove up in my car and just like,
hey, no, you got to get out there and beat feet on the street,
Right. All right. Anybody have any specific questions that they have about sales or anything that you think that I might be able to answer? You can go ahead and, raise your hand or chime in and we'll kind of take it like that if you have specific questions. If not, it's going to be a really boring hour. What do you got, Dave?
Everybody has their own style of selling. Yes. when it comes to getting in front of people. If you had to put a number to the different sales styles, how many would there be? That's the first part. And secondly, is there a chance that you could actually execute a couple of them to demonstrate for us?
That's a great question. I think you're right. There are multiple different styles. All I know is the ones that I use because they fit my personality and they fit, what I know. So the ones that I use, and it's also, I think, dependent upon your specific situation. Like with me, I spend as little time as I can on each one because we have so many that need to be sold. So I can't just like focus on one because I have leads coming in from 9 other properties or whatever at any given time. So for me, it's like I have to go really fast, really short. And I found that that approach works better for me because then I don't seem desperate. I'm just like, hey, yeah, just take it, like whatever. I'll follow up with you later. And they're just kind of like, whoa, like, whoa, this chair. They're like, whoa, that's a $5,000 job or whatever. So they get excited about it. Whereas, you know, if I were just trying to harp on them or they were the only thing that I had going, then they might get a little spooked, in my opinion, because I have too much time for them or I care too much about that one deal. You know what I mean? So that's why I think Patrick and I would always recommend, you know, having more shoes on the shelf, more sites ready to roll so that you can actually not be that desperate about any single one. So I think that kind of also plays into like what you're saying, Dave, about the style, right? Because your style is going to, you know, your desperation level is going to impact the style and the way that you come off to, you know, your prospects. And so for me, it's been a game changer to have something, you know, a lot of stuff that's really valuable to sell, because then, you know, it just makes my job easy. Right. So for my purposes, you know, I just go and try to prospect as much as I can, as many different properties as I can. The ones that obviously I'm prioritizing are the ones that are producing the most leads, and the ones that are not producing as many leads, I'll still try to get a trial client. And there's several of them that I have right now that are, you know, really, they could be really, really valuable. We just don't have them, you know, ranking high enough yet and pulling in enough calls to make that value, give that value to them. But we have, I have trial clients ready to roll, like good trial clients. So, you know, I'm just constantly trying to fill that pipeline. So I know that, you know, that doesn't specifically answer your question. And, you know, I've kind of alluded to some of the tactics that I've used in the past, like especially with texting, you know, that one that I closed earlier this year where it was just like a lead came in, a form submission came in this specific location. And I just texted this, you know, contractor randomly. I just said, do you do work in this location? And they said, you know, first they tried to hijack the conversation, but I was just like, no, I'm just answer my question. And they did. I set a standard with them, like a rapport with them, and closed them. And they've been amazing clients ever since, you know, and they're expanding into another niche. Maybe 2 months ago, they've paid a startup fee on a second niche. So I expect them to be a really good long-term multiple niche client just off of a 5-word text, you know? So I think that for me, it's all really intuition now as how I approach a given contractor based on what I have coming in, the kinds of leads that I have in my hand, and how much time and effort I've already spent on that location. Another win that I had recently, just within the last couple of weeks, was I had something that was producing very, very high at a very high level, but it's not very high value leads. Like the number is off the hook, but they're not very valuable. They're just like little repair jobs and stuff like that. So I couldn't sell it to anybody. And then I got this guy who called like looking for referrals. I mean, he actually called the line and he's like, hey, do you guys have any referral work you can give me? And I'm like, yeah, I can give you a whole bunch of referral work. So he actually took other niches and other locations as well. And so, because he has like a, you know, multiple city type of a capability. So we're going to see where that goes. But, you know, I just got lucky and, you know, listened to the calls enough to where, you know, I caught on to the guy who was actually looking for referrals. So that was a huge win for me because I spent probably the last 6 to 8 months trying to find somebody to take that. And so now I have somebody who's hyped, he's ready to roll. He's another one of those younger guys who grew up in the business. So he knows the business really well. and has the capability to, hopefully to grow at a level where we can take him. So we're getting all that stuff sorted out for him. So those are a couple of examples of how it's working for me. And again, it's just dependent upon the specific niche and situation that we find ourselves.
So as a follow-up, Jeff, you can probably say that confidence comes in, length of time you've been doing sales calls, the specific space that you're looking to get into, and the potential customer or the interviewee, or however you want to say it, the other person on the end of the line that you're talking to.
Right.
All those come into play, right?
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to, now that I've been through this dance a few times, I'm trying to eliminate them as much as I can too, before. And when I did that lead arbitrage for Facebook, I was banging the phone nonstop. And that's really where I got over any kind of fear. It was just every day, like my back was to the wall, like I had to pay the bills, like it was like that. And so that was a blessing in disguise, because now I can pick up the phone and call anybody, or I prefer not to call, because most of the time they're not going to answer the call anyway. So I just go by text or Facebook message, things like that, generally, and I do pretty well that way. But the confidence is definitely, probably without a doubt, the most important factor that has,
I like that, Jeff.
given
Definitely
any level of success. It's like, you just, I don't have to be afraid of not getting the deal. And there's nothing they can say to me that is going to upset me, or like whatever. They can tell me I'm whatever and hang up on me. Like, I don't care. Like, no, hearing no doesn't bother me at all. I'm just like, okay, they're not the right one. I've just realized time and time again that, even if I've really prospected an area in a specific niche, and I think that I've exhausted all possibilities, next thing I know, I found a whole nother list of 20 more contractors, so I'm not afraid to lose somebody if they're not the right one. We want to work with the right people, not just anybody. And that's not always possible. Sometimes you have to take on somebody and find out for yourself. But, overall, if I can, disqualify people along the way in the early stages, then it's going to be a lot more beneficial for me in the long term, because we really want those clients that are going to be with us 3, 5, 7 years down the road. I'm not looking for a 6-month deal and then they bail.
Right. So, hey, Jeff, I don't want to monopolize the entire Q&A session here, but I can go on with question after question after question that may be of benefit to other people. But I mean, if there's anybody else that has questions, I don't want to hold anybody back. If that's okay with you, Jeff, I don't.
Yeah, sure. Neil looks like he's got a question. Let's let Neil have a chance, and then come back to you, Dave. No problem.
Jeff, just curious, do you have different, say you're giving someone leads for a set up amount, the trial period. What's your close, or how do you approach at the end of the trial period? Do you have different methods on, all right, it's time to pay, bitch? How do you, what's your...
I mean, basically, I start trying to season them on what my expectations are throughout the trial. So if I'm getting a significant number, and that trial could be longer than you would expect it to be in some cases, if the calls are just trickling in, like if it's a newer asset, or we just don't have the ranking there yet, pardon me, then I might give them leads for a lot longer than you would expect. But I'm trying to season them along the way to normalize what it is, what it is that my expectations are. So if I'm like, hey, you've gotten like 3 or 4 really solid deals here. We need to get paid on this too. So, what are your thoughts? Is this something that you want to move forward with? And if they're like, oh, well, whatever, like I try to kind of tell them what's normal and what's not normal. I say, well, normally the contractors we work with are really, they understand the value that we bring to the table. And so once we get into a business relationship with them, then we put them on a monthly and they start paying. So we might, if it's like right now, it's whatever, the 10th of the month. Yeah, the 10th of the month. So it's a little bit earlier in the month. So we might prorate them. If this were the day when the trial should end, we might prorate them and say, hey, I'm going to make it easy on you. I'm just going to charge you. I might even just charge them for half of the month for this month. You know what I mean? So you've already gotten the leads from the beginning of the month and all of that. And then in December, then we'll charge you the full price. So we'll always try to make it as easy for them as possible. But again, I'm always trying to use the words normal and fair as much as possible and be like, our contractors, this is just the way we do it. And it works for them. It works for all the other contractors. And then it kind of makes them seem like an oddball or an odd person out. If they don't want to operate that way, then it's kind of like, well, that's not the way we do it. And, it just doesn't work for us. It doesn't work for our business model. All of our other contractors are killing it. And this is what we do. So do you want to be one of those contractors that are killing it or not? So that's kind of the way I tee it up.
Now, if it's just a few leads, like, starting out, do you try to do the flat rate? Because what I've done is gone on a percentage until we can get up to.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a transition period for us because we stopped doing ads last year. Before we would take the monthly and then we would run ads, and Patrick has described that multiple times on the calls, how that just wasn't working for us because we would go in the red and then the client would bounce and we have an asset we don't have a client for and we're in the red, and we have to pay more development costs and all of that. So we're not doing that anymore. So I'm more inclined to like we have a remodeling site in a location right now, and they've paid a couple of like referral fee split, if you will, like a 10 or 15% type of a deal on the two deals that they've gotten. And so I'm okay with that in the early stages while I'm building a relationship, because I've done the research on these people and I know they're legit. It's a family business. They've been around for decades. I'm comfortable doing that. It's that I know they're not just Jimmy in a pickup truck and they're gonna, they're not some fly by night deal. If they want to work with us, then I know that they have the capacity to do that. So I'm a little bit more lenient, again, because there's not that many leads coming in either. So if we were being inundated with leads, that would be a different story. But I take each one and try to monetize it to the best of my ability, based on what's coming in at any given time. And if I have to take a per lead, I will. I don't like that. Definitely not top of the list. But if I had to do it to make the deal work, then that's going to be more on a lower value niche. But I would do it. Yeah.
All right, back to you, Dave. That's really what I wanted to know. That was good. Thanks, Jeff.
No, those are great questions, Neil. I mean, there's not a lot of people that really know how to approach closing the sale afterwards. So that really helps. And Jeff, you hit it right on the head when it comes to that. So
yeah, cool.
It falls right in line with closing style and confidence. Now, the question to follow up on what Neil's asking is, when you start reaching out, obviously the phone doesn't weigh a ton and you have to have thick skin when people reject you, but do you call several people in one specific niche, or do you reach out to several people in several different niches at the same time during the same calling period?
That's a great question. My responsibilities have expanded quite a bit over the last 6 months or so. When I first came on with Patrick, and I was doing pretty much 100% sales in last year, beginning of last year, it was like there were so many sites to sell and all of that. Like, it was nonstop. So I would take the I guess it's the shotgun approach, if you will. And I was reaching out to, I would do a lot of research and get the prospect list, and then just start banging it, phone, Facebook Messenger, text, like however I could do it. And now it's a little bit more under control, because I've sold a lot of the stuff that is, was sitting on the shelf ready to be sold. There's still some of it. And, but the things that are the assets that were producing the most and that were really good deals for people, like, I sold all that stuff. So now it's kind of like I have these kinds of thorns in my side, if you will, where, like that one that I was mentioning earlier on the call, where I tried to sell that for like the last 6 or 8 months. And I pretty much just given up on it, because I was like, it's not well positioned. It's pulling crappy leads, like really low value leads that nobody wants. And, we need to reposition it. So our team has been working on that part of it. But then I get this rando guy who calls and says he wants referrals. It's like, okay, we'll just take everything that comes in off of this, right? And then on the other side of that, Dave, is that, I'll just kind of like, I have a list of all of the stuff that needs to be sold. And so there's a lot of, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn here, because, I wouldn't consider myself to be a great sales guy or anything. It's like, when you have great stuff to sell, it's just selling becomes easy, right? So I have a long list of stuff that's not monetized, but I have great clients already in place. Like I was saying, like they're ready to roll. It's just not producing enough leads to actually get a monthly for. So that's one thing that we're working on internally with our team, is to go and continue to build that stuff out so that we can produce and we can get those things monetized, because for whatever reason, they were assets that were built for whatever purpose, and they just were never completed and all of that. And so we have some of that stuff, but a lot of those, I mean, I already have great clients just sitting there waiting, and they're taking the leads as they come in, and I'm trying to monetize them. So I'm following up. Anytime I see a lead, I'm always like, like CC'd on the lead. So if I see a good one coming in, I'll make sure that I'm pinging them. Hey, that looks like a great one, like trying to continue to build that relationship with them. So then when it does come time, they ask for the money, then they already know what's up, right? I'm not starting from scratch or trying to build that rapport with them, at the last minute. It's like they've already gotten, 10 texts from me or whatever, or had a conversation or whatever. So that's kind of the way I've been working it.
Okay. So I don't want to hold back. I see Will coming in. He's connecting to audio. Hi, Will. Will, how you doing tonight, buddy?
What is up? How you doing?
We're talking sales tonight, and I'm just lobbing questions left and right at Jeff. So
what's going on, Will? Patrick's taking a night for himself tonight. So I'm kind of stepping in here and just doing sales questions and going from there.
Well, beautiful. I guess the inmates are running the asylum.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Anybody have any questions for sales? Let me see. Amy's saying she needs to sell sites bad. I'd like to hear about how some are using new automations. Have some big plans coming up. Would also like an update on porting them. Okay, those are going to be really good questions for Patrick.
I actually have a question, since I'm still off mute and jumping
Sure.
right in. So I'm not a big fan of pre-selling sites. My question is more, when you're getting a new site up and running, and assuming you have a website and a GMB with that, What's your standard timeline that you would say you do all your steps, and by this many days in after it's live, you're getting calls and you're getting close to getting that thing, rented out?
Man, if it were that easy.
I know, right?
Yeah, I mean that has so many variables to it, as far as like location, the niche, the competition, how good you are at what you do, like how fast can you get everything dialed in. I mean, it's really there's no easy answer to that. Well, it can be a long time depending on the niche. Some of the niches that we've gone into are hyper competitive, and it takes 6 months to a year or more to really get to be in a more prominent, dominant position in a given location. The other ones we found, we did a deal last year, and the guy blew out on us, and we ended up with some really high quality, high level, high producing assets. And, I was able to sell those. And it was just, over, I think we started it around this time last year. And by February, when the weather started getting better, it just started cranking. And it was unbelievable, the volume that was coming through those lines. I think we only had 2 or 3 GMBs, but it was a lot. And it's not predictable because, it wasn't expected either. It was, I would have expected that to take a lot longer.
Okay.
But, so.
I think that's actually helpful though, just giving the longer time range on the other end, right? Because sometimes you see things pop, and if you do everything, 60, 90 days after you get it live and you do your backlinks and citations, whatnot. But then there's other stuff that just doesn't quite happen. So it's important to not just give up on that, right? And let it keep giving it love and let that mature.
Well, yeah. And if you kind of have caught the drift from Patrick, he doesn't give up.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just, it depends on a lot of different variables. And, I made mistakes when I got into this business model, and I have stuff that I'm still working on ranking, and I'm, 3 years in basically. So I'm expecting those things to rank better and start producing better any moment. I mean, I am making a little bit off of them, but not what they should be worth. But I went into the most competitive niches and the most competitive places with a zero skill set, screwed it all up. I think another factor is also like how good can you get the naming of your GMB in place. If you can get some really, really good keyword rich GMB, then you might pop a lot faster. But some areas it's way in niches, it's way more difficult to get those live and get them to stick.
Yeah, for sure. Now, did you say there that you have multiple GMBs linked to one website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you do like on one GMB, the URL listed on that profile would be root domain / service area or something like that.
Yeah. Or location. Yeah. Or yeah. Either or.
There's been no negative impact of linking multiple to one site?
Not that I'm aware of, and we do it all the time. I do it on my own assets, and Patrick does it on his as well.
Well, that's a big benefit right there. I can build a third as many sites if I'm going for 3 GMBs in one location.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the mistakes that I made when I first got into the model. Was I came out and swinging and got like 25 GMBs, and then I was like, oh, I got to build 25 sites. It's like, oh man, that was a mistake.
It seems like I'm making a lot of the mistakes you did.
No, yeah. How long have you been doing this?
Probably really seriously. Like I started building my outsourced team probably six or 8 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
I think I joined originally JK close to a year ago.
Okay, that's still pretty new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, here's Jackson just dropped a comment, and he's been around for a minute. I do this with a site in San Diego, nichesandiego.com/city2, city3, city4, GMB to homepage, GMB to city2 page, GMB to city3 page. Yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Cool. That makes sense to me, Jackson. Thank you.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. Any other sales questions? Let me see what's going on over here in the chat. Yeah, no problem, Amy. I just, with the automations especially, that stuff is changing so much. There's so much development going on. Like I can't keep up with it, for my purposes when I'm using the software for my clients, that's when I'm using that. But I'm not involved on the development side. So I'm not as in the loop on what's happening at any given time on the automations and whatnot. So, yeah. And then verified GMB without a postcard on any location or service area, each in $130. I don't know what that guy's doing. Haraya Hori, are you trying to sell us GMBs right now? GMB verifications on the call. Thanks, appreciate it. No thanks. Yeah, I definitely prefer postcard verified. GMBs definitely seem to stick a lot better than any others that I've heard of or known of. And I know that there's been sweeps that have eliminated a lot of GMBs, a lot of them phone verified or otherwise, and we've just been lucky that we haven't gotten caught up in that too much. So anyway, so no other questions in the Facebook chat. Anybody have any other questions on like sales, mindset, anything like that? We've been working a lot on mindset. We've been doing a lot of masterminding and, reading a lot of books about business mindset and all of these things. So if you have any questions about that kind of stuff, I might try to answer that. What you got, Neil?
I just wanted to say that the accountability group, that has been great. I mean,
Yeah.
Really
I meant to ask about that. Thanks for bringing it up.
It's been great. I mean, we all we're on each other, and in a good way. And it keeps me more focused during the week. I'll be like, I only got till Wednesday. It's like,
right
now I've got a deadline where I got peers, are going to tell me, are you where you're supposed to be? If not, why? And
now you're in a group chat for that. Is that the way that works, Neil?
We do a Zoom just like this.
You do a Zoom once a week?
Once a week. Yep.
Gotcha.
Usually about an hour.
What's that?
Usually about an hour. And, we flip the screen back and forth to each other, and we show, because we were supposed to have X amount of goals for the next 3 months. And like we were talking tonight, we're going to continue this after this 3 months. I'm already planning my next goals because I plan on getting these, and we're, it's been great.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, I did. I had an accountability partner about maybe 8 years ago or so, and we used to get on a 5-minute phone call every morning and just kind of touch base. And we did it for probably about a year. And it's just, building the muscle, not to say that you couldn't continue to get something out of it if you were doing that. But it was a pretty big commitment, even though it's 5 minutes, but it's every morning. My kids were younger. I'm trying to juggle my kids and, juggle my accountability for like all that, it's every morning. So it's a commitment. But I mean, really, even just, I think, like I said, building that muscle in your own head where you're, then you can kind of like start to keep yourself accountable in a better way, or, you know what I mean? In a more powerful way, even if you don't have that person to bounce things off of. So I'm glad that you're getting a lot out of it. Is anyone else in the accountability groups and having good success? If you care to share.
I'm coming up on getting into the next accountability group, but I do have a question for Neil, if it's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Is there like a specific format that you guys go through on your Zoom calls? I mean, as in like the first thing there's like a roll call. Second thing there's who shares wins. Third thing, you see what I'm saying? Like a regimented process, or is it just a free for all?
Very informal. We get on there. Hey, how was your week? It's and then we get to the meat of it. And someone will say, "All right, I'm ready. I'll go." And we bring up, and we've got the form that Patrick sent out, and we get on the form to show where we're at that week, and if we fell behind, why did we fall behind? If we're ahead, how'd you get ahead? And yeah, it's just good that we're keeping on each other, and I think I'm more focused and I get more done because I got to answer to these guys.
Right.
Well, that's awesome. Is there anywhere on that form where you guys have done any kind of like mock sales calls between each other?
No, it's really about our goals. I mean,
Okay.
and everybody's got different goals in our group. I mean, I've got, I think 4 or 5 goals, and 2 are personal and 3 are with business. So
Super.
yeah, and it's once you get going and you open up with each other, we really tell each other anything. It's become a good close-knit group of guys.
Awesome. So thanks, Neil. I appreciate that. So
Our group is similar, Neil. We meet. We always just go first in whatever order, doesn't matter, and talk about did we meet our goals or not, and then after that, because we meet about an hour, we share. Like some of us are like I built more of a team than the other 2 have, and one of the others has more GMB experience than I have and stuff. So we kind of then just share experiences and help each other out. Like we share templates, we've shared a whole bunch of things like that. So that's so it's partly the accountability, but the second half that has helped is also sharing different ideas or helping each other out on something that happened that week, something like that.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it definitely helps I mean, there's so many different moving pieces to this business, and to do it well, it's like one thing that I realized once I started working with Patrick, and one of the reasons why I started working with him was because I don't want to go build a big team like Patrick has, but that's what you have to do if you're going to really scale and build something bigger. And so for me, it's like, if I were going to go do that, I'd be looking for somebody who's an executor like Patrick. So I might as well just partner with Patrick. But I think at the end of the day, one of the things that I've learned from him, and a book that we're reading, Fix This Next, I think, is the book where this
great book by Mike McAllowitz.
Yeah, it was. He basically says, if you're gonna be a real business owner, like stop trying to do the stuff and just continuously try to build the process and get the people to do the stuff for you. And so Patrick's been really masterful at that with the team that he has around him, and in my own business with my own assets and the other things that I'm doing on my own, which I still do. I need to continue to build a team around me as well, and to build that kind of process. And so I think that's really important for people like you, Will, like anybody on the call, but especially people who maybe are a little bit newer in the game, and just realize, learn what it is. You have to know how things work and everything. But once you learn that, just make it below your pay grade, make it so that you need to outsource it, and make it so that somebody else takes on those responsibilities, because that's how you're really going to scale this thing into something, that's going to be game changing for you. So,
I absolutely agree with that, Jeff. And I'd have to ask, at what point do you feel where it's good to bring on other people for sales? And if there's a specific process that you guys have put in place, or if you would put in place building your team for that sales team to be, up and running in a very short period of time.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dave. And all I can do is give you the example of how it's worked for Patrick. And so if you take Patrick as an example, he hired people, he hired the team to do the fulfillment, and he kept the sales on him because that's his sweet spot, right? He's really good at it. He's really good with people. It's the part that I think he misses the most now that I'm doing it, is because he loves to learn about people and get inside their heads and do all that stuff. That's why he's so good at it. But there was that point in time, and partly it was just, that the right timing when I came along and needed somebody to sell for, and he was like, well, I guess this is the right time when I need to start exiting that. And then he was able to hand that off to me. So I don't think that there's not a process in place or an exact right time, like how we're doing it. Like, we're not hiring a big sales team or anything like that. It's like me and Patrick, we still tag team on calls sometimes, when it's necessary. But for the most part, like I'm doing all that. And so he really took on, or actually delegated the fulfillment part, which is the part that is more cumbersome for him. And I think that's the same thing, I would do if I were just going to build an agency on my own or a lead gen portfolio on my own. I would retain the responsibilities of client communication and sales, and I would start offloading and outsourcing the fulfillment part. That being said, for most people, I would think it's a big hurdle to start hiring people. And I think even in that book, or one of the books that we've read recently, it's like hire slow and fire fast, right? It's like I think that's really important, but at the same time, it's like I've never had employees. I was an employee most of my life, so I don't have that skill set. It's a skill set that you have to develop and build, and hire wrong, get hosed, fire, think you made another right hire, get hosed again. Like, it's the same thing as building a GMB or a website and being like, oh, I made that mistake again. Like, dang, like, how did that happen? I thought I knew what I was doing,
Yeah, a lot of the hire slow, fire fast mentality, it really revolves around the culture of the company as well, because you don't want one bad apple breaking all the processes down with everybody else that's on the teams.
Right.
So I certainly understand that, but it all comes down to each of those teams, whether it's the outbound team or the inbound team, or whether it's a 2-call close, or even a joint close where you've got somebody calling inbound because they're interested in a program and you're setting it up for a closer. You've run into that before, right?
Where I have an inbound lead?
Where you have somebody calling inbound.
Yeah.
And you're able to qualify them first with all the questions to set that up for somebody that will actually close them for the sale. Are you familiar with that?
I understand what you're saying. That's just, it's not how we do it.
Okay.
When we get inbound leads, I mean, we could, if we had, if our team was double the size or whatever, like pick a number of how many more people we had, then we could just go and ask our clients and be like, hey, who would you refer to us? And right. I mean, it's pretty easy.
Would you mind sharing the entire process, Jeff? Because I'm sure you could do it much better than I.
Of inbound leads?
Well, inbound leads and the 2-call close.
Well, I mean, at that point, when the referrals are coming in, I mean, they're pretty easy to close. I mean, it's sometimes it revolves around timing when they hear the number, because they're like, oh, I have to wait for this deal to close or whatever. And it's just like, we don't hassle them. Sometimes those people, will promise they're going to come on board, and then sometimes they don't. But for the most part, if like we've had people who, we're really good to our clients, and we give them a lot of leeway. And so they feel indebted and obligated to us to some degree. Not all of them, but they're in certain situations. And sometimes in this one case last year in particular, Patrick went over and above for one of our good clients. And the guy just started sending us like dozens of referrals, like dozens and dozens. So many, we don't have the bandwidth to take them all on, And it's like, so those closes become really easy. It's like, okay, well, let me get on the phone with this person and give them a number and tell them the spiel. And they're pretty much, it's like shooting fish in a barrel. It's not even shooting fish in a barrel. I mean, they're just like jumping on the ship, or whatever. But we only have a certain amount of, bandwidth that we can allocate to taking on new clients. So we're not really in that hyper growth mode in that sense. We want to get the stuff that's already in the portfolio and is not producing. We want to get all that shored up and sold before we go and take on new clients and new projects. We have stuff that's half built that's just sitting there doing nothing, and those are the ones that we want to monetize first. So we have a few things that we need to get in place before we can really start taking on clients at that level. I think that we will eventually do that and be more aggressive about taking on more clients, and we probably will need salespeople at that point to do the same thing basically that I'm doing now, but just at a higher volume. But we're just not there yet.
Right. So before I fire my next question, I'm going to take a small pause and I'm sure there's
Ariel is posted a question in the chat on Facebook. Had a client on trial in a high ticket niche for about a week, gotten 3 leads. One of them was a monster today. Sales cycle can take a while to complete. At what point would you approach the sales topic with the business owner to rent out the site? I'm assuming I should wait to see how many of the leads he actually closes to factor that into the conversion. And I should mention it's an estimate bid kind of a thing. I haven't gotten word whether he's been awarded any yet. Yeah, Ariel, I would start putting the pressure on him, right away and be like, you see what I'm delivering. Like, would you be able to, generate those kinds of leads on your own? If so, or, then you probably already would have. If not, then you need me. So I would start kind of like teeing it up right away and making it clear that your expectation is that he's going to close at least one of these 3 leads. I would think that would be a reasonable expectation to close 30 to 35% of the leads, right? So I wouldn't just hammer him up front like that, but I would be like, hey, I don't just, again, like, tell them what's normal, like make it clear what's normal and be like, hey, out of these 3 leads, it would be normal to close like one of them. So one of them is going to be whatever the number is. And then, let's start talking about like what my expectations are of a fee for this. So then, you kind of start comparing what the fee that you have in mind is compared to that close and be like, yeah, some of them are going to be a monster like this. And if you get that one, that's going to be a slam dunk. These other ones, so we can average it out and we can see that, the average ticket here is whatever, 10 grand. My expectation is that I'm going to be charging you $2,000 a month. So, I definitely want you to be getting, 10 leads a month. And out of those 10 leads, you should be closing 2 or 3 of them. My fee's a no-brainer. Doesn't that sound normal and fair to you? And just let them, either disqualify themselves or whatever. But I would start teeing it up, as soon as possible and not let it run on, especially if you've given them, really high quality leads already. The smart, real business owners are going to see the value and they're going to be willing to pay even if the sales cycle isn't complete. So that's a little bit tricky that you kind of need to fish around a little bit if you can't tell from who they are to begin with, just from the research that you've done on them, through their website or whatever. You can tell if they're super established, they have a great website and all that kind of stuff. They know how to spend money, right? They have money to spend, or they've had money to spend. So then it shouldn't be a big deal to be like, hey, let's lock this down today. From November the 10th, I'll prorate it for the first month. So I'm going to charge you $2,000 a month. So why don't you just give me, $1,250 for the rest of November, and then we'll amp you up to $2,000 at the beginning of December. Obviously, if the lead volume isn't there, then I'm not going to expect you to pay. This is the way we do it. We don't do contracts. You can bounce anytime you want. If you're not getting the value, we can renegotiate. But based on what's coming in and the value of the leads that are coming in, I think $2,000 is more than reasonable. I'd rather over deliver and get paid less rather than nitpick. I just want to make my monthly and move on. So that's kind of the way I would do it. I don't know if anybody else has anything that they would add. Raphael is saying, what sales book do you recommend? Patrick is chiming in, Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes.
Good book.
Yeah, I listened to that. I need to go re-listen to that probably. I listened to it about maybe 2 years ago. Listened to the audiobook. Yeah.
I have an extensive library on my audio.
Yeah.
Constantly listening. Automatic Customer, anything by Mike Michalowicz is great. Everybody talks about Michael Gerber, super books that he's got out. Not just the one revisited, but his original seminar that he had. Mm-hmm. That is fabulous, and that is what actually got me started in my entrepreneurial career. It's literally the E-Myth, and if you look for it on Audible, or I actually got my program on cassette tape. I don't know if anybody remembers those, but that was through Nightingale Conant. I see Shannon laughing.
Yeah, I think I've read the E-Myth also.
Great seminar. I mean, it was absolutely fabulous. I see Shannon still shaking her head. So you can identify it by the purple in the cover, and that's the only one that he has that's purple.
Right.
But certainly great books out there. Ready, Fire, Aim. Great book. Mm-hmm. It's all about taking action before you actually do what you need to do. So, and I'm sure, Jeff, you've got more books that you could recommend as well. I mean, I'm not the be all end all, but
there's, like you say, that Mike Michalowicz, Profits First is next on the list, and then see, we have a few that we're going through. I'm trying to follow more what Patrick's doing, so that I have so that I'm in the same mindset that he is. Measure What Matters.
Oh yeah.
Just Fix This Next. The Goal by Eliyahu Gold something. Those are on my list right now. So that's that. Anybody else have any other questions? We're at an hour. We've been a little just rambling around here. We're talking about sales, kicking the can back and forth. I've really enjoyed it. And if anybody has any other questions about sales or anything else that I might be able to answer, please don't ask me about the details of automations. We'll be back soon. He can answer that.
No, seriously, Jeff, I can fire questions at you for another solid 2 hours. And,
I appreciate that, Dave. Thanks for helping me keep the conversation going. And it seems like people get value out of it, but they don't always know what to ask. It's like, I feel like I have a lot of sales reps under my belt. So I have a good, sort of overall sensibility about what I'm doing, but I change things around a lot too, just to see into it, my intuition tells me a certain thing about a certain niche or a certain location or a certain prospect. And I might approach things in a completely different way because I'm not, in the beginning when I was doing all of that prospecting and banging the phone, I did follow a very regimented, not script, but outline structure that I could go and ask the right questions, plug all the holes, get all the information, refer back, and do all those things that are important. And I, I'm certainly not an expert at it, but I just have done it enough to where I can. I'm trying to be I'm also an efficiency freak, so I won't spend 2 hours on the phone with somebody. I'll try to either qualify them or disqualify them and get them either in my life or out of my life, more quickly. And sometimes that is probably not the doesn't increase my close rate. Sometimes I might lose a really good potential client, but we're all different. Like Dave said, we're all different. We all have different, approaches to things. So, anyway,
those are super great points, Jeff. And, if I could really chime in and just say that the questions I'm asking are for the good of the group. I have a lot of sales skills behind me, just like you. But if I could, a couple of really basic softball questions that really I think should be touched on is when you actually start smiling and dialing to make those contacts and get the contracts, as it were, how do you qualify whether or not you're talking to the right person to begin with? And secondly, how do you overcome objections to getting to the right person that you need to talk to?
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of the reason why I don't bang the phone anymore, because there's too many gatekeepers. Voicemail is a gatekeeper, it's like you can't get past it, right? So I'll try to do a real surgical strike text, like I'm saying,
Okay.
and that has worked better for me than anything else, because if I tee that text up in the right way and in the right timing, then the gatekeepers vaporize and I'm talking to the business owner.
Let's say that you do actually get a gatekeeper on the phone. How do you qualify whether or not it's the right person to talk to begin with?
Well, I can kind of tell by the way that I'm listening to everything. I'm listening to the way they answer the phone. I'm listening to, their sort of BS filter, or, how jaded they might be for someone like me. Obviously I want to distinguish myself as much as I possibly can from Angie's List. It's like Angie's, oh, we rebranded, we're different. No, they're not different. It's just Angie's, right? So I'm always trying to distinguish myself from them. So you never want to, call or contact a business owner and be like, hey, can I speak with the business owner? Like, I mean, come on, like you're out, if that's happening. So, so I'm always trying to be the person who's so different that they don't even know what to think of me, And so when I do that, and then I follow that up with value, I'm like the no BS guy. I'm like, look, I have sometimes my pitch will be, hey, do you take referrals? And they'll be like, well, what do you mean? And I'll be like, well, sometimes I get people wanting this work that you do. Would you be willing to pay me something for it? Oh yeah, sure, man. It's like, okay, well, here's a lead. Go do it. Like it can be like that simple. It's like I try not to complicate.
So if you get to a gatekeeper that answers the phone, what do you do to overcome the objections to not being connected with the person that can make the decision?
You mean if I get a gatekeeper on the phone?
Yeah. So you call in, you get the receptionist. Hey, can I talk to the owner? Well, the owner's not in.
Yeah. I never do that anymore. It's a waste of time. In my opinion, as an efficiency freak, it's a waste of time
Okay.
because I'm not playing phone tag with anybody. If I can't get the business owner, either on a text or Facebook message or something like that, or I could call them, and sometimes I would, but not as often. It's like, well, here's an example. It doesn't always work that way because sometimes the gatekeeper will have enough
Authority, maybe.
Authority. Thank you. Authority to carry the conversation to the next level. And that happened recently with something that we had. And it ends up, it's with an 80-year-old family-owned company. They're regional. They could be an amazing client for us. And, I was struggling with this asset. And we were on a team call. We have our team calls on Monday, and Patrick mentioned something that was like, oh yeah, hey, I haven't tried that yet. And so I looked it up. Next thing I know, I had these people on the phone. I'm like, okay, great. They're not paying us a lot of money yet, just because of where the asset is. But it was, sort of the admin person, but she happened to be in charge of marketing. And when I'm calling, that does remind me, like, one thing I will do is if I am making a phone call, like a cold call to a company like that, I'll just be like, hey, you guys have anybody in charge of marketing over there? Yes. And they'll be like, oh, that's me. Or they'll be like, oh yeah, that's Jennifer or whatever. Let me get her on the phone or get you over to her, or whatever. But that's the way I'll do it, is I'll just be like, yeah, do you have somebody in charge of marketing? And they'll be like, and then you just start the conversation. Say, hey, I see that you have XYZ going on with your website. I get referrals for your niche all the time. I'd love to be able to work with you guys. Is that even a possibility? Like, I just play stupid, and just keep it simple, and it seems to work out for me.
That's a really nice sneak into a back door, if you will, to get to somebody that's in the marketing department, and then in addition to what you're talking about.
Well, in this case, Dave, like the person that I ended up contacting, that was the exact line that I think I used, if I remember, is like, hey, do you guys have somebody in charge of marketing? Well, what are they responsible for creating business, right? So it's like, if you've got business, you can just hand them. I mean, they're looking for, hundreds of leads a month is what they're trying to fill. I can't do that for them. Yet maybe we can grow into that relationship, but it's like, hey, I have something really super powerful that can add on to what you're already doing. Then they're usually all ears. So, but
I've used a similar backdoor technique as well, and I've called up and I've literally asked who answered the phone, do you guys have a marketing and advertising department? And if so, can you go ahead and transfer me to them? Mm-hmm. And with the answer being no from the person I'm talking to, then I immediately come back with, well, how do I become your marketing and advertising specialist? Mm-hmm. And that's gotten me into a couple of different doors, but it's extremely effective because they're not expecting it to begin with.
That's right. That's what I try to go for, is the unexpected. I try to differentiate myself so they don't know. It throws them off when they can't place you or identify you or put you into a category. So I just, I do that a bunch of different ways. And again, a lot of it nowadays is more intuitive, based on my mood and the situation that I'm in, what I have to offer, and I just roll with it. Sure. I do have another question here on Facebook real quick. It's Lisa's asking, do you handle account management after you close them, or is that someone else? What's the best practices? Lisa, yes, I handle the client management. And in the beginning, I was very good at, touching base with every client, often, often enough. But then once I kind of got, more involved in the company and have other responsibilities and whatever, it's just been more difficult to do that. But I do tend to keep a very close, lock on, what is in jeopardy or what might, what could be in jeopardy. That's part of what we're trying to write into the software also, is notifications. If call volume goes up or down, or your ranking goes up or down, then you're getting notified about that kind of stuff. I mean, these are holes in the system where when you have dozens and dozens of clients that you're managing, then, you don't know. We have one, where that's happened, where, leads have gone way down, and it's like, well, I didn't see it until the client made it, told me about it. And so
it is kind of hard to scale your personal time to monitor every aspect, especially when you have, 150, 300, 700 clients at one time. So,
well, yeah, I mean, we don't have nearly that many, but it's still hard. And,
sure.
I think it's still, some clients, they don't want to hear from me either. Like I've also learned that that's another kind of, I'm a very intuitive person. So, I wanted to be, Johnny on the spot and be there and make sure that everything's cool, and at least once a month, and be like, hey, everything cool? Like, I see that coming in, like, whatever, but I found that, a lot of clients, they don't even text back. They're like, I'm too busy running my business. Like, just take my money and leave me alone. Okay, cool.
That's a really good problem to have, in my opinion.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I had to learn that, because I was like, wow, like I want to make sure that I keep them in the right position so that we don't, ever find ourselves in jeopardy on any of our clients. It's unrealistic. There's so many things that can happen that are out of your control. I think that the notifications, being built into the system are going to be a game changer for this type of client management, Lisa, because then the more that you can kind of take out of the bandwidth in your head and put it into an automated system that's going to ping you and tell you what's up, then it just allows you to do so many other things that are potentially more important. I mean, that's a very important factor, but it's very difficult to keep up with that many clients and, recognize where there's a slight variation that might be affecting them in a very big way.
And certainly to be able to delegate that to anybody else on the team would be very beneficial as well after you've been able to scale your business. Wouldn't you agree, Jeff?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's definitely, if it can be automated, then why delegate it? I mean, that's the thing.
Well, no, I'm talking about when you get that notification,
oh,
if you have so many of them over the course of a day or a month, to be able to have somebody on your sales team that can reach out and touch base, because that personal touch really does make a difference, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does. I mean, right now, Patrick and I are the only ones who talk to clients, and he's slowly. It's hard. It's been difficult when Patrick started the relationship. He's managed the relationship, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, I'm going to hand you off to this dude." It's like they don't. They don't always want to be handed off to somebody else,
That's a great point. When do you, as a business owner, take on a team or anybody, and then figure out how to transfer that individual or those individuals that are on your team off of you so that you gain that time? When does that occur?
I mean, it's real. I mean, that's a real challenge. And, there's still some clients that Patrick manages, and that some of them, I don't even know their names. I don't even know who they are. Right. Because I don't need to, but, if they start, being needy or need something, even if it's something good, if they want to expand or whatever, and they start coming out of the woodwork, well, at that point, then it's like, okay, well, here, go talk to Jeff because Patrick doesn't have time. But those are real issues in a business. Is like, once you do hire somebody else to manage your client, that's big, and I feel very grateful that Patrick trusts me with his client or his clients. It's his company, right? But to be able to do that and to have somebody that you can trust, it's not an easy thing. It's definitely not.
I've found for myself personally, as I've started to grow and transition, that being able to introduce the next person that is going to be that representative taking care of them, that was a tough one for me personally to let go of, so that I could continue working on what I do, and not the $10 per hour thing that that other person that I've delegated to can handle. Now I get to focus on the $1,000 items that are bringing business in.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. All right. Well, I think we've been on here for coming up on an hour and a half, hour and 20 minutes or something like that. So I'm ready to call it a night. If you guys are, we only have a few people left. So I appreciate all of your questions, Dave and Neil. And
like I said, for the good of the group, I wanted to continue this conversation because it's that important. And to everybody that's watching, Facebook or otherwise, thank you. I hope you got value out of it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I appreciate it a lot. So, all right. Thanks a lot, everyone. Go out there and get some more wins. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We are going to be in what they call an office day here in Nashville. I just flew into Nashville today. And Friday, we're going to be in an office day with some mentors and just continue to up-level our skill set, and just definitely, encourage all of you guys to do the same. I mean, it really does help so much to have people around you who are excelling and learning and growing and motivating you and holding you accountable and all of those things. So get out there and do it. And we look forward to hearing some more wins next week when we get back on the call. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Jeff, great call tonight. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Take care.